So you're coming to the end of your law enforcement career and you're trying to find your next passion in life, a job that doesn't just bring you fulfillment and excitement, but also pays you really well. You have so much experience that you've gained during your law enforcement career, and you have now earned the right to have an exciting career and one that also is financially really rewarding as well. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 high-paying jobs that law enforcement officers can and should be going after in their career after the uniform. Let's get going. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 22 of the Recruiting Heroes Show. My name is Colin Whittington. I am your host. I'm also the CEO and founder of Recruiting Heroes, LLC, a national employment agency dedicated to helping you all, America's law enforcement officers and military veterans, with your career transition to the private sector. It's going to be a great episode today. I'm really excited to talk about the 5 biggest the best jobs law enforcement officers can really go after if they're looking for a high salary, which I know is a huge topic nowadays. Everything from eggs to houses seems to be costing tons more than they were just a handful of years ago even. So being rewarded for your experience financially is absolutely an important part of that process as well. Throughout the video, I'll be giving away a ton of free information for you, as well as free resources, one of them being our Heroes Job Search Guide. I'm going to link it down below. It'll also be on our website, which is recruitingheroesllc.com. This guide is absolutely phenomenal. It comes with my resume template that I created, and I use my own personal resume as well as the resumes that I've written for thousands of officers now. It comes with instructions on how to write a fantastic resume, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, how to crush a job interview, and so much more. Again, it's completely for free, so do check it out. We'll give away a few more resources towards the end of this video, so please do stick around. And as always, like, comment below, and subscribe to this channel. It helps us grow and helps us reach more heroes just like you who could benefit from this information. So let's get right into it. So again, my name is Colin Whittington. I'm going to pull up a slide here. My name is Colin Whittington. I'm a former deputy sheriff serving about almost 8 years in law enforcement as a deputy sheriff in Northern Virginia. I worked for the Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, which is the largest full-service sheriff's office in Virginia. Worked on patrol, community policing, PIO, and then finally as the sergeant of the background investigation and recruiting unit, which is where I fell in love with recruiting. In 2019, I was named the Deputy Sheriff of the Year for the whole state of Virginia, which is pretty cool. Decided to leave law enforcement in 2022 to start this business, which is Recruiting Heroes. Again, we help law enforcement officers and veterans find jobs after their years of service. I'm also proud to be the best-selling author of my first book, which is Beyond the Thin Blue Line. You can get it right now on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, Walmart, my website. You can check that out. It's a great resource for any officer or really any candidate looking to transition to the private sector. And then my next book, The Thinning Blue Line, comes out on March 31st, 2025. So I hope you'll check that out as well. But that is absolutely enough about me. So let's get right into the top 5 jobs, top 5 highest paying jobs that law enforcement officers can and should consider when leaving the profession. The first one is a pretty obvious one to many of you, and that's corporate security manager. So corporate security managers, they obviously oversee the security operations for companies and organizations throughout the world. They ensure the safety of employees, assets, and sensitive information. They also are involved in developing the security policies, conducting risk assessments, and managing crisis response. So this is actually a perfect job for law enforcement officers who come from that line of work, right? I will say really quickly, you'll notice that on the slideshow, I have a few words that are bolded. That's going to be the case throughout the presentation. These are keywords that I want you, if you're interested in these kind of jobs, I want you to make sure that these keywords are both on your resume as well as your LinkedIn and even your cover letter as well. These are some of the most important keywords for this industry, and they're absolutely ones that you will want to include in your documentations. That way you can stand out to hiring managers. But yeah, security managers, it's a really great role for law enforcement officers because, you know, you have such great leadership skills, whether or not you're a supervisor or not, you are just born leaders given the circumstances you were thrown into on a daily basis. You have experience with risk assessment. We may not have called it that in law enforcement, but anytime you made any kind of plan or operations plan about doing a search warrant or taking in a suspect or anything else like that, that's a risk assessment, a risk management type of role. So you have that experience as well as crisis management, which kind of goes hand in hand with that. You have experience with investigations, physical security, and so much more. So many law enforcement officers really can translate so well into the corporate security world. But now I do want to put a big asterisk on this one. I don't want anyone in law enforcement to feel that this is the only type of career that they can go after their years in law enforcement. Security is a phenomenal career if it's something that interests you. But there's plenty of law enforcement officers who have been there and done that and don't want anything else to do with security or investigations or anything else like that. And there are so many other roles that you can also consider, and we'll talk about some of them here today as well. Um, Corporate security, the salary range obviously can vary depending on your location, the state, the industry, and your experience as well. But typically, the salary range for security manager goes from around 85,000 to 150,000, even a little higher, depending on your experience. Again, so it's a great salary in the private sector. You could probably pretty easily make six figures right out the gate and work your way up to higher $100,000 range type of salaries. So it's definitely something to consider if that's a salary range you're looking for after law enforcement. On each of these five jobs, I also want to list a few trainings and certifications you should consider to help yourself make you more competitive in the job market when you go to apply for it. So for the corporate security manager role, here are a few certifications you should consider. You should look at the Certified Protection Professional, the CPP, which is through ASIS International, the Physical Security Professional, PSP, which is also through ASIS, and then any type of crisis management or business continuity training. There are a variety of trainings that you can look into, but these are three of the best ones. I will also let you know that at the end of this video, I'm going to be giving away my trainings and certification guide, which comes with a whole list of trainings and certs you should consider. And it's broken out by industry as well. So make sure you stick around for that because that's going to be so important. A lot of cops get out of law enforcement and don't invest in themselves, right? And what you really need to do is take that time to go after the certifications and trainings that will make you stand out over the other 800,000 cops in America. You want to make yourself different, and taking some of these certifications will absolutely do that. All right, the next role is a fraud investigator, or even a financial crimes analyst. Kind of go hands in hands. These could be with a bank, they could be with insurance companies. A whole host of organizations and industries would have fraud investigators in their position. And these people, they analyze financial transactions, they investigate fraud cases, and they work with business or government agencies to detect and prevent financial crimes. I'm sure all of you are having the last couple of months received the toll pass scam text message that's been going around. There's endless employment scams going around, and these are just to individuals. Companies are getting these and then some. My company, Recruiting Heroes, even though we're a pretty small organization, we are sent scams on a daily basis, just constant. People talking about my Facebook account being hacked and that we have to pay to have it released, or that we're violating some kind of policy, and that if we don't pay the ransom, basically, it'll shut it down, and a whole host of things. And this only gets worse and worse the bigger your organization is. So the biggest companies have tons of fraud investigators, just making sure that there's nothing foul going on with their clients, with their own employees, or other things as well. So fraud investigator is a great role because it's so sought after in the private sector. And they like hiring law enforcement officers because you come from a background of investigating these types of crimes already. So you already have this experience. Of course, if you were a financial crimes detective or investigator, your chances are going to be even greater. But even a regular patrol officer who has handled, routine frauds cases would be miles ahead of just the average civilian who wants to get into investigations but has no actual law enforcement background. This is just a great role for somebody who has, criminal investigation experience, interviewing experience. I always mention that the younger generation right now who are outside of law enforcement really can't talk for crap because they've grown up behind their screens on their phones and tablets and things like that. So your ability to interview people and interrogate suspects is going to make you stand out tenfold over any other civilian candidate who applies for a similar role. And you're also really good at analyzing evidence, which is going to be a huge part of a fraud investigator's role. These types of roles typically have a salary range between 70,000, the low end, to around 120,000. starting off at least. I think you can go a little higher once you get established, but that's typically the range you can see yourself becoming receiving when you're a fraud investigator starting out in the private sector. And if some of the certifications and trainings to consider, the certified fraud examiner one is huge. I see that on almost every single fraud investigation type of role. Everyone wants the CFE certification. So if you're still in law enforcement and you have an interest in fraud investigations, start working towards that certification now. Since this might be related to what you're currently doing in law enforcement, your agency might even help pay for that class. So absolutely consider the CFE. It's a great one. You can also become a certified financial crimes investigator through the International Association of Financial Crimes Investigators. Another fantastic one that's also highly sought after by companies. And the final one, this is more about money laundering, but certified anti-money laundering specialist. That's another really important role that especially banks are looking at. So those are three fantastic certifications to consider if you want to go into a financial crimes or fraud investigator type of position in the private sector. Next, cybersecurity analyst. Cyber crimes are getting bigger and bigger by the day. It's the newest threat. You know, terrorist attacks in the future will no longer be very rarely just be bombings or explosions or shootings or anything else like that. Those will still exist, but cyber crimes and cyber terrorist attacks are absolutely the future. Just imagine a country shutting down our entire, internet, our electrical grid, other things like that. It's going to bring the country to its knees far more than a single attack on a building or facility could possibly create. Even though that does create fear itself, imagine all of a sudden now you lose the ability to communicate with your loved ones. The fear that would instill would be massive. So cybersecurity is a massive industry, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And it's a good industry for law enforcement to consider because you come from a role, an experience, industry where you had to investigate roles, you had to have attention to detail. Cops have to be really attention to detail oriented to be able to make sure that their cases are solved properly and with the proper order and structure and following legal policies. You're also very used to handling sensitive information, which is going to be a huge part of cyber crimes. Again, in these roles, you'll be protecting companies from cyber threats, monitoring network security, responding to breaches, digital forensics, and there's numerous other tasks you'll have. Again, this one's a little bit more specialized. So if you're just a regular patrol officer, it might be hard to get right into cyber crimes. You might have to work your way up. But if you have a cyber crimes division of your agency and you're in that as a detective or investigator or supervisor, this could be a great career path for you to follow. These ones pay pretty well obviously. So 90,000 is probably on the lower end. I would say it's probably higher than that. So at least six figures, all the way up to $150,000 a year or much more than that. The more experience you get, the higher your salary will be. And some people in that profession who are really, really the top of the top are making $500,000 or more. So it's a great industry to look after. Here are some of the certs to consider. The CompTIA Security Plus is one of the biggest certifications I ever see on any job posting in any industry. Pretty much any tech job will want you to have that certification. So look into the CompTIA Security Plus. CompTIA has a whole host of certifications. This is one of the lower to mid entry level ones, but it's just a really good foundational one that you will want to consider if you want to do anything in like the tech and security type of roles. This is a really good one to go after. The Certified Information Security System Security Professional is another really important one. This one takes a little longer to get than the CompTIA Security Plus certification, but it's a great one to work towards. And even if you have like a long-term plan of completing it, you can still put on your resume and say that you're working towards it, which shows companies you're really passionate about this industry and are working to improve yourself. The certified ethical hacker is a really cool one as well. So there are ethical hackers that companies hire. Literally their job is to hack into the company's network to show their vulnerabilities. So you can actually get paid to be a hacker, and the certification will help you get there. And then a few other ones as well. So cybersecurity analyst is a really big one as well. Okay, law enforcement technology sales. So there are a ton of companies in the US and across the world that have products and services that law enforcement agencies utilize. So think about your experience. I'm sure a lot of you have used a Motorola radio before, or an Axon body camera or taser. Or maybe if you're in background investigations, you use Power DMS or NeoGov, that I think they're called now, or a whole wide range of services, software technologies that these companies are now offering law enforcement or public safety agencies. These companies want to hire former law enforcement officers for their sales roles. So this is a sales position. It's really sought after because they want someone that speaks the language, right? If someone comes to you and tries to sell you something law enforcement related and he or she has no law enforcement background, you're going to be a little unsure about them because like if this person's never actually had to hold a taser before and he's trying to tell you it's the best taser ever, you're going to have doubts about whether or not this person has any clue what he's talking about. But if a cop's coming to you or a former law enforcement officer is coming to you and saying, hey, I spent 20 years in law enforcement, carried all sorts of tasers. This is the newest one we have now. It is far better than anything I ever had to carry. It's going to be game changing for your agency. That department's going to be taking a much more serious look at it. So companies love to hire these sales professionals that have a law enforcement background. They get like in-car cameras, another one, radio, software. I mentioned all those already. There's just a ton of companies out there. Again, I mentioned Motorola, Axon, Flock Safety. There's just so many other ones out there as well. So these are really ones that you should consider if you want to get into sales. They do also have a role. A lot of these companies have roles that are called customer success managers. These are really popular right now. And these are not sales roles. These are basically people that maintain the relationships with their current clients. So let's say Motorola has a radio deal with Boston PD. They will want to have one customer success manager whose job it is to maintain relationships with Boston PD, making sure that they're happy, making sure that they have no needs, no questions, and continually being a point of contact for that organization. And again, companies like Motorola want to hire prior law enforcement because of your ability to hold conversations with cops and having shared experiences. So sales or customer success are just great roles to consider if you want to stay in the law enforcement world and use that experience and that network that you've built. Pretty obvious why this is a good one. You have come from law enforcement. You can communicate well. You can speak very well. These are all important qualities for a salesperson. I've long thought that sales is just one of the best industries for law enforcement officers if you have that sales mindset, because you have to build rapport with people in a second on a call for service. And if you don't do it successfully, a call can be turned violent. So with much lower stakes, this is similar to sales. You might have a few seconds to really win somebody over and gain their trust and have them hear your whole pitch. And that's why law enforcement would be so good at that, because of our ability to communicate through crisis intervention kind of training that we've gone through and just dealing with people from different cultures. You're going to be able to communicate so well regardless of who you talk to. So sales is something you'd absolutely consider. Good thing about sales, the salary potential is enormous. Of course, some roles are more commission-based, so your base salary might be lower. But if you're phenomenal at sales, you can make $200,000. You can make $1 million a year. Some of these big companies that have phenomenal salespeople that are leading the way, they're making $1 million a year. Some of them are making more than the management is because they're so good at selling. So sales is something that if you're driven and motivated and want to be in sales, you can make a ton of money, and it's a pretty cool career. Some of the certifications to consider: HubSpot has a pretty cool technical sales certification you can look into. It's great. It teaches you a lot about the basics of sales, how to use customer relationship management software, how to hold relationships, how to communicate with people, and how to get your sales pitch across in an effective way. The project management professional, the PMP certification, is great, not just for sales, but really any management roles as well. The PMP certification is another one of the certifications that I see most often on job postings. So something you should definitely look into. It's a great, great one to get, and it really will help you to be a better manager as well. And then any kind of public safety technology training that are vendor specific. So if Motorola has their own training to go through, you can either do that when you get hired by them, and they might even have options for you to take it ahead of time for those who are really interested in that career field. And then the very last role that I want to talk about that is very popular with law enforcement officers is becoming a private investigator. So whether you work for an individual or for companies or a law firm, there are always need for private investigators, where you conduct surveillance, background checks, criminal investigations, and a number of other things. Of course, your background in criminal investigations, in surveillance, in witness interviewing are all perfect for this type of role. It's a pretty cool career path to get into, because oftentimes you can set your own hours, you can work off hours if you need to, and you can kind of pick and choose your clients as well. So it's a really cool industry to get into. And if you even start your own business, you can become, your own boss, and which is what I am now. And I love it. Being your own boss is really, really cool. And you'll probably love it as well. So consider being a private investigator if you want to set your own schedule and still want to conduct investigations. The salary here, again, could be pretty wide range, but 70,000 is probably pretty easy to get. And then well over $100,000 if you're phenomenal at what you do. Again, if you become the go-to person in a certain industry, you might be able to make, well over that $250,000 or more. Some of the certifications to consider: every single state, for the most part, you're required to become a state. You have to get the state private investigator license. So I'm in Virginia. There's one here. If you're in Maryland, there's one there. There are some that carry over different states. So they have agreements with, if you're a certified investigator in one state, it carries over to another state. But you'll want to look into that before you get started. The professional certified investigator certification is also really great. This one's also through ACES International. I mentioned ACES a few times, so go check out their website. I'll link it down below as well for you, since it's such a popular platform to get certifications that are related to security or investigations. You should check those out. And then there's a certified legal investigator certification as well that you would want to look into, because it's a great resource for you. Again, these are just 5 of the top paying roles that law enforcement officers can go after. There's other ones as well, but these are ones that I've seen officers do phenomenally well in, and I'm sure you can as well. Are there any that I'm forgetting? If there are, comment below, because I would love to hear your thoughts on what you've got into or what you want to get into. I would love to hear that thought. I do want to let you know again about our free resources, the free downloads. They're on our website at recruitingheroesllc.com. I'll also link them below. So first is the Heroes Job Search Guide. I mentioned it at the start of the video. This guide is one I created about a year ago, and it's fantastic. It walks you through how to write a resume. I give you my resume template for free. I also give you a step-by-step guide on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn is so important in the private sector. And I give you tips and strategies on how to crush an interview. So get that one for sure. It's completely for free. If you don't want the whole thing, you can just download my professional resume template as well. That's great to have, a good starting point. You can go work off of a template versus starting from scratch, which is so much harder. Don't do that. Always start with a template. I do also have another form. It's my industries of interest document. This one includes a variety of industries that you might want to consider, and it's done based off of interest. So if you say you're interested in firearms, I'll tell you these are the ones to consider. If you're interested in investigations, consider these ones. And then on the 3rd and 4th page, I list a whole bunch of certifications and trainings that you might want to consider for each industry to make yourself more competitive. So again, that's free. Download that as well. And then finally, my interview cheat sheet, where I give you the tips on answering the 11 most common interview questions. So you're prepared for those. Again, completely for free. All of those are for free. So check those out. Well, I want to thank you all for being here today. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I am a published author, best-selling author, in fact. My first book is already out. That's Beyond the Thin Blue Line. And my next book, The Thinning Blue Line, will be out in about 2 weeks or so from the filming of this video. So check those out. If you ever need anything, if you want any help with your resume, if you need help with your LinkedIn, interview training, anything like that at all, reach out to me. You can email me directly at colin.whittington@recruitingheroesllc.com. You can even call me. I'm crazy, I know. I'm putting my phone number on here. Give me a call, or check out my websites. recruitingheroesllc.com is my business website, and then whittingtonbooks.com is my author website. So you can read all about my books on there as well. Of course, I do kindly ask you just to like this video, comment below, and subscribe to the channel. That's all I ask for you to watch this video. It will really help me grow, and it helps me reach more officers that could potentially benefit from this free information that I provide. Because I know not everybody can afford, a resume writer or a career coach. That's why I'm so dedicated to giving you this free information. That way, every single person in the country can benefit from this and go forward and have a great career after law enforcement. Because you've dedicated your life to service. Now it's time for you to reap the rewards and really experience a phenomenal career in the private sector. But that's all we have time for today, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Reach out if you need any help, and stay safe out there. Bye, guys.